Anne-Marie van Eeden, welcome to the Artist I Meet channel. I'm so delighted to speak to you today about your art and about your artistic process. Before we do, please introduce yourself and tell us who you are, where you live, and those kind of things.
Hello, Hans. It is wonderful to chat with you today. I'm here sitting in my house in Clarens, in Montreux, Switzerland.
Wow.
Speaking English. I am from South Africa. I've moved to Switzerland maybe about 12 years ago. So I've been here for quite a bit. And yes, I love being here. I've continued my creative work since I've been in Switzerland, and I am a musician.
Yes.
And I'm a songwriter. Oh, my dog is making noises. I don't know if you can hear it.
It's actually no problem. It just adds to the ambiance. So yes, just carry on. Don't forget about it.
She's part of my life anyway. She's my my companion.
All the more that anyway, she should be included in the interview.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter, I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and yeah, hopefully lots of other little things as well. And yeah, but I think my main focus is recording artist and songwriter, singer and pianist.
Wow, that's a lot. It sounds like a lot to juggle in one day. Hopefully not everything in one day, but yes. So speaking of your art, I would actually really be interested to hear how you got into the industry initially. At what age did you, for instance, initially became interested in music, and did anybody tell you at some stage that you really had talent for this?
It really started from very early age. I remember my parents telling me that they were one Saturday morning in bed, and I was 2 years old. And they heard me trying to play Do Dear on the piano and figuring out, standing there and trying to reach the notes. So from an early age, I think I was just always interested in music, busy at the piano. I started with lessons when I was 5, 3 times a week. So it was really, I had a good foundation in music, all classical, of course, for starters. And then eventually I studied music after school. But yeah, that was still all classical. I studied classical piano and oboe. Not that I can play the oboe, trust me, I'm a very, very bad oboe player. But anyway, we had to do 2 instruments, so I had to choose one more. So eventually when I was at university, you know, you always need extra pocket money. So my sister and I, was also a musician, we decided to knock on the doors of some restaurants who might need background musicians. So we ended up playing at After Dark, which was quite a famous restaurant, kind of a theater restaurant in Pretoria. And yes, so that is where, for the first time, I started exploring contemporary music, jazz, and so on. And that became my main focus later in my life, and today as well, where it's more contemporary music more than classical, really.
Okay, well, I love it. You know, I remember After Dark in my younger days as well in Pretoria. So that was a good platform actually for a lot of artists in Pretoria, South Africa. So that is how you got started, but I guess that was only the beginning, and things may have changed a lot from then to where you are today. So I would like to also know, what would you consider to be a unique feature of your art?
Well, I think for me, being trained classically, and then later on having all the influences of accompanying other artists, singers, cabaret.
Yeah.
I think that all influenced me in my own style. And also the fact that I think most people would know me as a gospel artist. And if I hear the word gospel, if I listen to gospel, it's quite a typical sound that you hear. And I don't think my sound is typically gospel. I incorporate lots of different genres and styles. I like to incorporate Latin sounds, jazz sounds, pop sounds, classical as well. So I think the theme, the words, the lyrics, which might be mostly a gospel or a spiritual theme, is carried on a music that is not typically gospel. So I think that is quite a feature of my music. And also, I think the fact that I play the piano myself, I accompany myself when I perform, I sing and I play the piano. And I sometimes play the accordion, not very good, but I do. I used to play bass guitar at university. Mad. If I think about that now, I don't know how I did it. But yes, sometimes I just get this urgent to play a new instrument, and then I, go into a crash course and teach myself. But yeah, piano is definitely my main focus. So.
And I may be prejudiced because I really like your music, and that is basically what attracted me to it in the first place. It was all these influences. I like something that's a little bit different, and not typically gospel, not typically jazz, not typically South American or whatever, but with all these influences, and you make a great sound. And I can also mention that your music grows on one. And the more you listen to it, the more you start liking it, and you can then discover all the layers in the music. Now for the artistic bit. Can you give us a bit of insight in your creative process? And how does it start? How does it evolve and into your masterpiece?
Well, I think it is different for every artist, and for me, it's also sometimes changes. I don't have one recipe that I just follow, but because I'm a songwriter, I need words to start with. So I sometimes write my own, oftentimes actually, and I also use words by poets, often South Africa's famous poets or others, not only South African. So I think to write a good song, that you use a poem, you need to know what the poem is saying. It's quite a responsibility to take somebody else's words, or your own for that matter, and put it in such a way to music that it delivers the message correctly. I've heard a lot of bad compositions of people just taking words and just forcing it into a song. But I've also heard, of course, amazing compositions made from and I think for me the secret or the thing behind it is to really take the message of the words. So for example, I had this very recently, this past week or two, I was busy with specific words. It's actually a poem, very old. It's in the late 1800s. When I started with it, I really wanted to write a blues song. So I forced these words into a blues style. And I'm telling you, it was bugging me. I couldn't sleep at night. So I had to, and recorded it on my phone just with voice message. I do that for all my songs.
Yeah.
And I listened back and I asked myself, why is this not working? And I realized because the style and the words do not match. It just simply do not match. So I had to erase and start again. So at the moment, it is working so much better because it's more in a almost Israeli folk song style, with all the minors and a little bit of twists and turns here and there. And
I'd
it
love
works.
to hear that.
It's very simple and straightforward. You will hear it. And so, yeah, sometimes you have to use the words as your main source of where am I going to go with this so that people understand what you are singing about.
Great. Well, that is something, me as not an artist, it's very interesting to hear how people do it. And I guess people have their own unique way of creating art. Okay, so that brings me to the next question. Do you sometimes collaborate with others? I think you alluded already to that a little bit, but yes, and I would just like to know, what is the process? What is the process when you start working with others? And do you have to adapt your way of working?
Yeah. Usually, it's me solo, but I have had collaborations with other artists which were amazing and very, very enjoyable. And of course, as you might guess, is one of my favorite collaborations is with my own twin sister, Lizanne Barnard. We are twins. We both grew up with music. We both had our lessons together. We both studied music. We both went into the same kind of style and stuff that we were doing. So we have collaborated since we were very tiny with our little concerts that we had with our piano teacher. We used to play duets. We used to sing together. And then at university again. But only later, quite recently, when we both started singing, because before it was just piano playing. When we both started our own singing endeavors, we had some collaborations which were really amazing. One that we did that was amazing that we did in Switzerland, in France, and in South Africa was called Totally Twins. And because we were both pianists, we started off, I don't know how we did it. If I think about it now, I'm sweating because it was quite difficult. But we chose a piano piece, a classical piano piece for two grand pianos. So we had these two beautiful Steinways on the stage at the Entler Theater in Stellenbosch. And we opened this thing with our dresses and we came on stage and we started with this thing. But I'm telling you, I was nervous. I'm so nervous if I have to play classical because it's just a totally different ball game. But anyway, so after that, the whole band came on. So there we had the drummer and the bassist and everything, and the whole thing was totally then in a different style. But yes, that was a lovely, lovely thing that we did together, and some collaborations with, for example, Sibongile Sibeko, that you know well as well, that we've performed together in Belgium, in Switzerland, and that's been amazing. I really enjoyed that. Bringing in more of the African styles, doing songs together, that was really nice. But yes, I'm looking forward to more collaborations. Actually, I've got a few things up my sleeve that we can maybe talk about on the next occasion.
Yes. No, we can, and we will. Towards the end of this interview, I think we will touch on that. So I can imagine that, as with any line of work, there are aspects that you really like and others that you wish could be delegated to someone else. but it's just part of the process and you really have to do it. So what is your favorite part of your line of work and why?
Hans, that is easy for me to answer because I know exactly what I love
Okay.
and the parts that I don't like so
Okay.
much. So the parts, okay, let me start with what I don't like so much. Bad
Okay.
news first. So basically, all the to advertise yourself,
Yeah.
to put yourself out there. I'm not very good at that.
Yeah.
I've got my Facebook page, which I've learned to just post, regularly on that. Well, quite regularly. I've got Instagram that I don't use all that much.
Okay.
I've got a website that needs to be updated.
Okay.
So I know all of these things are not fabulous that I'm telling you now. I know I should do more, but I have just chatted this past week with somebody to help me with that. That's what
Okay.
I say. If you are not fabulous with it, get
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
else who is and who can do
Exactly.
it for you. So that's the route I'm trying to take now. And I think that's going to be really helpful. So yeah, I think basically that part and the admin and getting your stuff, published and on Samro and all those things.
Yes.
I get help. I just ask people to help me with that
Oh, that's
because
good.
it's not my favorite thing to do. It just isn't. Anyway, the part that I like, that I love, I often say it, and it is honestly the best thing for me to do, the best thing and the nicest thing in the world is to get a band together.
Oh, okay.
And to start this creative process.
Yeah.
I've got these songs now. How are we going to do it?
Yeah.
Bassist, I want you to start. No. The drummer must start with a riff, and then the bassist will come in, and then we will have some strings, and then the piano will start, or what have you.
Wow.
And that part is fantastic. And then even better than this is to record, because it's kind of the same thing, but then it's quite controlled. It's in a studio. You have to prepare what you have to know what you want to do. I would say 80%, 70% before how you want it to happen.
Yes.
But then there's still this creative process. Things have changed, of course, a lot over the years, because nowadays people don't really need to be in a studio like 10, 20 years ago. Every album recorded happened in a studio. Now, you don't have to do that. You can do it from your home. I mean, everybody's got the equipment, or you can just ask a drummer, please lay down the tracks, send it to the producer. He's going to put all together. But it's still a creative process, which I love. But of course, working with your face-to-face with the people, I love it. I love it. And to have this concert, once you've decided, okay, I'm going to a concert, this is our theme, this is what we want to do, this is that, let's start rehearsing. I love it. It's the best thing in the world.
Well, that sounds great. Now, to elaborate more a little bit on the enjoyable part, are there any interesting places where you performed in the past?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, Hans. Very interesting places. They were, well, let me tell you about one or two incidents that were funny and, I mean, actually horrible. I think it was horrible. But before I say it was horrible, let me first say what I do and what I like to give people when I perform. What I want to give people is not only a wonderful, enjoyable musical experience. Of course that as well. But usually, I would say 80% of the time, my performances or my music has got to do with talking to the audience as well. I'm not only playing. I talk in between. I tell them I've got a little message that I would like to give them that goes together with the music and with the songs. And that is a message of hope and inspiration. And it goes together with my personal testimony. which is a topic for another day. But anyway, so having said that, I remember one day I told a friend of mine, I'm coming through London for some other stuff that I wanted to do. And she said, look, you are going to be in London. I want you to come to my house and do a little performance for ladies, for a group of women. And I said, yes, certainly. Just make sure that there's a piano or a keyboard, a good keyboard, a mic. And there we go. Once I arrived there, like 20 minutes before the whole thing, the women were already there because we were strapped for time. We only had this very short period, and then I had to go to the airport and be off again.
Ooh.
So we've got all these ladies looking at me with big eyes, and I'm looking at them with big eyes. And I said, where's the piano? Okay, so they brought me a little keyboard. I'm telling you, if it's 1.5 octaves, it's a lot. It's just this tiny little, it's like almost like these Casio tones. I don't know if you remember Casio tones of way back. It's this thing, no weighted keys, these little light notes.
Yeah.
And what about the mic? Okay, no, we've got a mic. It's her daughter's. And she brings this thing. I'm telling you, it looks like one of these things that the children play there.
Yeah.
What do they call it? If karaoke kind of stuff.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
No mic stand.
Yeah.
So we put this keyboard in front of me on a little table. And one of the ladies has to hold the mic in front of my mouth while I sing. I mean, that is not the ideal circumstance. It's not.
No.
And so she forgets to focus this thing here. So I have to go down and down and down, and then I have to remind her. It was quite funny, actually. But if I think of it afterwards, it did not take away anything of the message that I wanted to portray. So I've made peace with that thing, that it's not always the best sound or the best smoke and lights that's got the best outcome. So I've got more horror stories like that, but let's stick to this one for now.
Okay. And so maybe could we rather focus on what was your most memorable concert experience up to now?
It's difficult to say, but if I think I started singing late. I started singing after the tragic incident after my son died. I started singing. I started composing songs.
Okay.
I started writing about how I experienced just the clearness of God in my life in detail, little ways. Anyway, so one of my very, very first performances was I had all of these songs and I didn't know what to do with it. And I just organized a concert at the Dorpstraat Theater, the Dorp Street Theater. It's quite a famous little theater in Stellenbosch. It doesn't exist anymore, but those days it was quite famous. I don't think they've ever heard a gospel-themed concert in there. Lots of rock and other stuff. But anyway, I phoned her. She said, no, come. And I got the people in my church band for my very first concert. It was just the folks playing with me in the worship band. But they were pretty good musicians. Anyway, we practiced for days and weeks on end, hours and hours. They were so committed and so amazing. It was actually just the being together and practicing was already so wonderful. Anyway, so we were all there. It was full house. The people could not even fit in. It was amazing. The theater was just packed, and we were all on stage, and I was pretty nervous. So we had our songs ready. Everything was really well rehearsed, and the way we wanted to start was with a keyboard player who's also the double bass player. He was going to start on the note A, a very deep drone A. So you will just start with this mesmerizing sound, and then I will start with this piano stuff and whatever. And he starts on this note, and I start with my run, and I realized we are in two different keys. And I said, Jacques, A, it's got to be an A. And he said, I am playing an A. I said, no, you're not playing an A. And this is all happening for our opening for this amazing concert. Anyway, so I just realized something is wrong, and it's possibly something to do with the transposition thing. So I said, switch it off. All of this is happening with all the people looking at us and starting to fidgeting and getting a bit nervous. Anyway, so we just made a big joke out of it. So eventually we started, and it was just amazing. It was my first concert. It was the first time I sang these songs that I wrote after my son passed away, and telling people how I started and why I wrote this song. And it was just a very, very amazing, fabulous event. And I remember when we ended the whole thing, the people were all standing up. They were clapping. We were doing the last song, which has got a tango beat called Kijk Op.
I remember that.
And it was just, it was just a wonderful, very memorable concert that I will never, ever forget. It was sort of first time for me on stage with the band, singing myself. So that was really, really special.
Sounds like a real adrenaline rush. Talking about your venues, do you consider it important to create atmosphere at your venues, and how do you do it, if so? Or do you prefer to focus more on your art?
Well, I've described some events where it was honestly, there was nothing aesthetically pleasing about it. And it was still successful, and I would say, but if I can have my way, of course, and if I can plan something, I want it to look beautiful. I want it to be pleasing for all the senses. So I've often had artists with exhibitions together with a performance. I even have one of my friends here in Clarence. She has got a little gallery just around the corner, literally 20 meters from me, where I've been doing some performances, and just walking into a gallery is already beautiful, and her artwork is so stunning. Maybe you can see that one over there. It's very far, but she made that one. She's quite a famous artist in Switzerland, and she is just very open to share her space, and she loves it, of course, to have music there as well. So, and even when I did my, just remember that when I did my final concert for my classical studies, I mean, most of the time you just walk on stage and there's the piano and so on, but I made it beautiful. There were some rugs, oriental rugs on the stage, and nice big stuff, just things to make it pleasing to the eye as well. So yes, I won't say it's a must. I can do it without it, but when things look beautiful, I just love it. So definitely.
I fully agree with that. The atmosphere is important. It's actually part of the whole production. I feel. So on a more practical side, are you planning any upcoming events, or can we expect another CD or some new songs? What's next for you, and where can people see your art?
Yes, I am planning a few things for this year. One of the big things that I've been working on for quite a while now is not music, but I'm writing a book, which, yes, I have started with this quite a while back, and I want to finish it. I think if somebody has to tell me, look, you have to do one thing now for the next 6 months, and you can only choose one thing, what will it be? It will be the book.
Okay.
I'm writing I'm writing about the healing process after losing a child, because I feel I've met so many people who have and who still are going and suffering through the process, and I know how difficult, how hard, and how long that process is. But I have to share the hope that you can get through it. And so that is one thing that I'm busy with, and that I'm almost, 70% done, I would say. So I want to finish that. That's one really big thing on the agenda. And then in April, I plan to be in Stellenbosch, and I'm going to record a new album. And this time, again, a collaboration in a way with Koos van der Merwe, who is a musician himself, but also a poet. He writes the most beautiful poems. And I have selected a few of his poems that I love and that I have put to music, almost finished with all of them. Then that will be recorded in Stellenbosch with Helmut Meyer again.
Okay.
And just using all my favorite, wonderful, fabulous musicians, either from South Africa or from Europe, and making a joyful noise.
So is this whole album going to be his music or his lyrics, or are there some of your lyrics as well?
I think at this stage it will be only that, but things might change at the end, where I might throw in one or two or three.
Okay.
Because I live in Europe, it's interesting that I still sing a lot in Afrikaans, my mother tongue. But I don't want to exclude people, so maybe I might just throw in one or two English ones or a French one. I will see. But it will definitely, the biggest bulk of it will be Koos van der Merwe's poems.
You mentioned a few albums already. Can you perhaps just tell us how many albums you've already recorded, and give us a little bit of a feel of each one of them?
Yes, I've recorded 4. The first one was called Kyk Op, which is the one that I mentioned a little bit, of all the songs that I composed after my son died. So that was the first one, very close to my heart. All my albums are close to my heart. It's like my own children. The next one was Altyd Daar. Also a lot of, it was almost a follow-up, I would say, of Kyk Op. Still a lot of gospel, spiritual influence there. Lots of Afrikaans as well. And then thirdly, I recorded one being here in Switzerland, which had a totally new feel. It is called Winter, or Winter in Afrikaans, same word. And the title tells you, it is being in winters where I've never been, with snow, cold, grey. And it was also winter time of my life. So the whole album has got a different kind of feel, also a lot of the European accordion, French kind of vibe that you hear on that. I also included for the first time a French song, which was wonderful. And then my latest one that I recorded also here in Switzerland, called Verhaal, which means story or histoire. And that one, yes, is based on the song by Elizabeth Abers, which is one of my favorite poems, called Verhaal. 'n vrou het stil geword van baie wag.
To conclude, what is the best advice that you have ever been given?
Well, my teacher at university, her name is, or was, Marian Friedman. Her name is still Marian Friedman. She was a child prodigy. She was a fantastic pianist and a wonderful teacher. And I've learned a lot from her. And I remember she used to go into lots of detail. She would take one phrase of a Mozart sonata and she would take things out of there that is unbelievable in one short little phrase, lots of detail, lots and lots of detail. And I remember asking her once, I said, I don't know if anybody would ever hear this, if they would ever recognize what has been put into preparing this piece. Because if you perform, people just hear the bigger picture and they just hear if you can play it well and technically well and musical and so on. And she said something that I will always remember, and that is, you always play for that one person who will listen to the detail. Even if there's only one person who hears it, it's worthwhile.
Wow,
and
profound.
I really always think back of that, because my music is not always just, how would I put it, for the general people to just have a good time.
Yeah.
I like to put a thought in the detail of everything, the style, the performance, the recording, the composition, everything. And that is, that was really, really good advice. So I keep that always in mind.
And it's noted. It comes through in your music. I can say that with a very clear conscience. So then we get to this big thing that came over this world, and that is COVID. Were you influenced by it? Did your career suffer because of it? And how did you cope?
I am fully aware of the fact that it has been a very, very difficult time for many people. I'm aware of that. I've seen it, I've heard it firsthand. For me personally, it has not been traumatic at all. I remember with the first lockdown, both my daughters were here. It just worked out that way. They were both already left home. So they both were with me, which was a fantastic time. Another thing that I did a little bit more, I thought of that only recently, is that I started writing poetry much more, over the past two years. In fact, a little bit of good news that I might share is that one of my poems is being included in a new Afrikaans, what do you call it? What's the word for a bundle?
Compilation, I think.
Yes, exactly. And the launch of that is now on the 29th of January, and they've included one of my poems, which I was very, very happy about. A poem called Onthou. Thank you. So it's in Afrikaans. Otherwise, I could have read it to you, but it's an Afrikaans poem, so most people might not understand it. But that was really wonderful, and I think that came from my dad. My dad's written amazing stories and poems, so I was very happy about that. But COVID generally has been not fantastic. The fact that I had to cancel so many of my concerts that I planned. I had a whole, actually throughout South Africa, for my previous album, Verhaal. I wanted to launch it in South Africa all over, and I had to cancel in the last minute all of those performances. That was really disappointing. But I'm going ahead with new albums and doing new things, and hopefully there will be performances of all of those, hopefully in Belgium as well.
I hope so too. So what I take from this is that apart from all the negativity and the negative influence it had, you also had a few positive things coming from it. May not be at exactly the same level as what you could have had, but it's something new, and it's something new to explore. And I get that from so many people who started exploring other avenues and so on, and who are becoming quite successful at those as well. Well, Anne-Marie, thank you very much for joining me today and talking about all these things so interestingly, and I really think people have a little bit more of an insight in your artistic process, and hopefully people will start looking more at your art and appreciating it. And I really appreciate that you took the time to speak to me and to share a bit of what is a very important aspect of your life with us. I wish you every success with your career, and may there be lots of opportunities for you to express your artistic talent to the fullest as you richly deserve.
Thanks, Hans. I really appreciate it.